Hello, my name is Roman Dindihashvili, and this DVD is about latest games on King's Indian. And when we do something like latest games in King's Indian, we know that we have hundreds, maybe over 1,000 games with King's Indian which you have to choose from. We're going to present several games, but how do I pick the games? I pick the games with the typical mistakes that you can sometimes expect even on the highest level. There's typical mistakes that are very, very instructive to watch them, to see them, and I am not showing any games of weak players. They are all at least senior masters or international masters. Nevertheless, even then, make some critical and some very typical mistakes which we will have to see. I included a couple of my own games from the internet, but I played maybe 4 or 5 dozens of them, but I pick only the games that are very typical, couple of games. So let's start looking at those games in the random order because they are not really connected with each other. So first game was played in 2011, this year. It was played on a very high level, one grandmaster and one international master. White won this game, and this game was very much interesting for me because, well, you will see, I will show you the interesting point of it. C4, G6, you know, King's Indian can be played in various move order. Knight C3, Bishop G7, E4, castle, Bishop E2, E5, castling, Knight A6, Rook E1, and Bishop G4. Bishop G4 is the move that first was played by me. I created this move and I was defending it. And it's a very interesting idea. For example, if white takes on E5, idea of this, then bishop takes F3, EF, bishop takes E2, takes E2, queen F6. Black has perfect position. And the reason why, because this is the typical position, I've been saying this many times over and over, that this is typical position where one side has space advantage and the other side has to exchange 2 sets of minor pieces. That's exactly what they have. And now Black is playing Rook E8. They have beautiful game. They're going Knight C5 next. Knight D5 doesn't do much because after Queen E6, Black is going to play C6 and they're going to have very, very good position. Obviously, this is not the good choice for White. There is also D5 move. I just give you a quick overview of Bishop G4. White was played. Then Knight C5, attacking E4 pawn, where Knight D2, which is very typical move for this kind of positions, is not good because of Knight D3. This is unexpected move, and if bishop takes G4, then knight takes G4. White cannot take the knight on G4 because after knight takes E1, black knight easily escapes from E1 to D3 or C2. This is not good, but if rook F1, then knight takes C1, black has very, very comfortable position. They can go knight F6 and play later bishop H6, or they can try to go F5 even. Either way, black, I think, is a lot better here. However, in the game, white chose one of the better moves in this position, which is bishop e3. On bishop e3, knight h5. This is a really bad move. Black is trying to put some pressure on d4, but what happened, they're going to get passive position and slowly lose the game. We're going to go over the game, but before we do that, what is correct continuation? E takes d. This is the correct move. And best way for white to play is bishop takes d4. Since knight cannot go to c6, attack the dark square bishop. Because if knight takes d4, then after bishop takes e2, queen takes e2, and rook e8, black is very, very comfortable. So white has to try to get at least 2 bishops advantage for getting the black's light square bishop for the f3 knight. But then we're going to go knight c5, attacking e4 pawn, and if e5, then knight e4. This is the forced continuation. And after knight takes e4, knight takes e4, black is doing real well. Because queen b3, which is the best move in this position, will be met by c5, and on bishop e3, d takes e. Those are all analysis. Queen takes b7, bishop f5, and on queen a6, queen b6. Black is doing real well. This is absolutely necessary for black to play like this. It's absolutely necessary for black to take on d4 here, because otherwise after d5 or h3, they're going to have worse position. And let's go over it again. E takes d. Knight takes d4 is always good for black. They got rid of one set of minor pieces. Now their space disadvantage is less important, and after rook e8, they have very comfortable position. f3, c6 with a possible d5. So after ed, if bishop takes d4, again knight c5, and after e5, you see black of course cannot take on e5, then we play knight f to e4, and white has nothing better than taking and going queen b3, in which case we go c5, and we get the position that we just saw on the board, bishop f5 move, protecting the knight on e4. And now rook b8 and rook takes b2 is threatening. So, and after queen a6, queen b6, black has no problems, no worries. Great position for black. So now we're going to see what happened in the game. What happened in the game, knight h5. This is highly anti-positional move, and I'm very surprised that a strong player with a FIDE rating of 25-50 would make this move. You don't take your knight on the edge of the board. This is like one of the basic rules for international player, for any master. You don't take knight on the edge of the board when the center is not closed. Well, after d5, if white played d5, maybe knight h5 is then good. But now after h3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, and ed, bishop takes d4, and knight f4. What is sole knight doing on f4, really? It's not much. Bishop takes g7, king takes g7, and after e5, white has very clear advantage. Knight c5, well, it's not, no, there is no good advice because on b7 is hanging, and after knight c5, ed, queen takes d6, queen takes d6, cd, rook e2 d1. Now this position is obviously very bad for black. Very powerful bishop on f3, weak pawn on d6, and absolutely zero counterplay. And after rook e2 d1, actually game continued quite a bit, but black was always on the ropes, and eventually they lost the game. Knight e5, bishop takes b7, rook b8, bishop a6, and on rook b6, bishop b5, and on rook fb8, knight a4. I don't think it's necessary for us to see the rest of the game, but it's obvious that white is much better, nearly winning, and normally that's where we have to stop, because this is not about the game between two players, how did it go to the end. It's about evaluation of opening position right after the opening, and who won this battle in the opening. Definitely white. And again, once more, for the last time, I'm going to repeat the typical mistake is knight h5. What happened after knight h5? Black got punished because of some concrete continuation. But this wasn't even the case. You don't put knight on h5. White had several different ways to play. After bishop takes f3, black should have played knight f6. But then white has two bishops. There is a bad bishop on g7. Black doesn't have a good bishop on c8, and no counterplay for black. Total defeat in the opening. And this was total fiasco for white. Now, I want to show you a very interesting game, also with whole bunch of mistakes between two top players, between Wang, Chinese grandmaster, rated 2730 in a FIDE list, 2730 rating, and Alexander Grishuk, 2770. You see how people on such a high level can make some critical mistakes. d4, knight f6. And this is very instructive. You want to make moves like top grandmasters do, but you have to exclude mistakes that I will show you now. g6, and this is g3 variation. Bishop g2, castle, knight c3, d6, knight f3, knight c6, castle, a6, b3, rook b8, knight d5. This is a theoretical move, one of the possible continuations for white, bishop g4. Black doesn't want to take because pawn on d5 will be very strong and knight on c6 very uncomfortable. So they go bishop g4. And after bishop b2, knight takes d5, cd, and knight takes b4. Now Grishuk went for it correctly. e4. Obviously white is threatening simply to play a3 and win a piece. This was correct way to play for black, but they continued. This move was very, very incorrect and mistake. This is good position for black, but the correct move is c6. And this would have decided the opening outcome as favorable for black. On d takes c, knight will take on c6, and there is a certain pressure on d4. Black is doing real well. For example, of h3 is not good because after queen b6, there is no way of protecting this pawn. Now, when we play c6, obviously, we have to keep in mind that white can play a3. But if white plays a3, then we play c takes d. This is very big advantage for black. If white takes on b4, black takes on e4, having material advantage because they're going to win their knight back on the f3, and they're going to be much better. Now, by this move, by c takes d, black create a threat of d takes c, and also prepare the escape square for knight to c6. And after a3 is not good, so what can white play here? Maybe queen d2. But on queen d2, we simply go a5, and after a3, knight a6. Very comfortable position for white. Black is going to have to take on c6 sooner or later, and then b3 pawn is weak, and black is doing very well. f5 is overly optimistic and a bad move. After f5, h3 was played, f takes e, h takes g, e takes f, bishop takes f3, queen e8, and g5. Let's evaluate this position. White's b2 bishop is not that good, but white's light square bishop makes it up for that. Black has too many light square weaknesses, and their pawn structure is kind of frozen, and white, in my opinion, has sizable advantage. After g5, rook takes f3 was played. Grischuk saw that his position is getting bad. White is threatening a3 now. And especially if white plays bishop g4. Well, immediate a3 wasn't that great because of queen f7, attacking the bishop and the pawn on d5. But by g5 move, what white did is, in a way, it prevented queen f7. Because on queen f7, white would have played bishop g4, threatening bishop e6, forcing black to take d5 pawn. And then after queen e2, they're threatening bishop e6 again, and it's forcing e5, d takes e, and rook a2 e1. Black is up a pawn, but white has full compensation in a form of a very active two bishops. However, that's what should have been played by black, but they optimistically sacrificed an exchange. Rook takes f3 was played, queen takes f3, they go queen f7, and obviously exchange will be very good for black because they will play knight takes d5 next move, and having dominating knight and a pawn for a rook. So white decided to continue correctly in the middle game, played queen e2, and this position turned out to be a lot better for white. Rook f8, f4, knight takes d5, rook f2, h6, rook a1 to f1, and you'll see black's pieces coming out alive. C6, G4, they want to play F5. And again, white has a big advantage here. You can always look for the rest of the game in the database, but our opening battle is ended. Ended clearly in white's favor. So now let's go back again and make two critical pointers. Here, C6 will give black maybe a slight advantage, but it was a very powerful move that was missed by black, although the knight on b4 has no square. There is no way for white to attack this knight because after a3 cd. This is one move that was missed, and after incorrect f5, h3, now fe, hg. There was a second option after queen e8, g5 for black to make nearly equal position is queen f7, allowing bishop g4, and after knight takes d5, queen e2, go simply e5, de, rook e1, rook e8. This is compensation for white, but very playable position for black. After two of those missed opportunities, black was suffering for the rest of the game and lost the game. Here's the game between two super grandmasters that need no introduction, with white Alexander Morozevich and with black Ivanchuk. Now, these people are very well known chess world to chess lovers, and the game that we're going to see was very poorly played by white King's India. d4, knight f6, c4, g6, f3. This is the kind of move that white wants to avoid, sometimes Grunfeld. So if they play knight c3, they're kind of avoiding Grunfeld, and they want to invite black to c5 or d5, but played c5, and on d5 he played bishop g7, and on e4, d6 we got very well known position from Zemish system for white. Castle, knight e2, e6, knight g3. I don't like this maneuver very much because it's time consuming. I like a lot better bishop d3 and knight e2. Simplest and easiest continuation. But Morozevich doesn't like the simplest ways. He plays kind of unorthodox way, and maybe that's what got him in trouble in this game. Knight e6, knight a6, bishop e2, e takes d, c takes d, knight c7, a4, a6, and now castle should have been played, but bishop g5. Now the nature of this move is very unclear to me. Why does he play bishop g5? Does he think he doesn't have to castle yet? Or what bishop g5 does that he cannot do later? Maybe he wanted to play queen d2 to prevent h6, but bishop g5 doesn't prevent h6, because if black wants to, they can go h6 now. Actually, what happened is bishop d7, black wants to go b5, and now white plays h4. This is kind of inconsistent. On h4, b5 was played. And I think this doubtful maneuver, bishop g5 and h4, is backfiring. If I saw this position played by someone rated 15 or 1600, I would say this is amateurish and very weak strategy, allowing b5, going bishop g5 and h5 with the king in its center. This has to be punished. And here is player on Morozevich's level played it for white. And guess what? He did get punished. Well, he might have gotten away with it against weaker player, but against Ivanchuk, he really did get punished in a worst possible way. h5, h6, very strong move. Of course, there is no way white is going to give up their dark square bishop because they're going to be strategically lost. Bishop e3, now b4, knight b1, and here Ivanchuk played natural move, which is not bad, but by far not the best. This position already, by reaching this position, white violated several basic principles. And sometimes grandmasters trust each other so much that they don't try to capitalize on violating basic principles. And black here could have punished white severely. The correct move was, since white went several times back and forth with the pieces, knight h5, opening position white after knight takes h5, gh. This would have been critical for white, because now black got rid of the knight from f6, attacking on b2, and white has absolutely no time of getting some attack on a king side, and f5 is coming next move. This position is absolutely crushing and decisively winning for black. On rook takes h5, for example, maybe taking on b2 is dangerous because of rook a2 and bishop takes h6, but there is simple f5 move that opens position in its center, and white's king will be in the dire straits real quick. This is totally lost position, and I would love to see this to happen, just to punish white for such a unsound strategy. And this would have been the critical. But white's position is so bad that even the move that was played in a game still got black winning position. But you see the difference, black's king is a lot safer now. But now black has to remove the knight from f6 and go f5, and they also went g5. So it takes 3 moves to open the bishop and go f5. And here it takes 1 move, and position is open, and f5 is coming next move. That could have been absolutely devastating, and something like queen d2 can be met by queen f6. I don't know how b2 pawn can be protected. It cannot be. So it's totally busted position for white. But as I said, even g5 gives black sizable advantage. Bishop f2, knight e8, attacking on b2. Now this knight has to go all the way to e8, where it cannot stay for long, to go f5 instead of taking on h5. Knight e8, rook a2, and now f5. Black is still much better. b3, fe, knight takes e4, bishop f5, and now knight g3, king h8, bishop c4. White tries to saw its position together to get some kind of blockade and not to let black open the position. Bishop h7, castle, knight f6. Obviously, white has weakness on h5, weakness on d5. Their pieces, we don't know what knight on b1 is doing, rook on a2. This is not good. Rook e2, queen d7, and after rook fe1, rook a e8, and now rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, queen takes. White has no counterplay. Black has extremely active bishops and a terrible weakness on d5 and terrible weakness on h5. White is completely lost here. Knight d2. Now, black could have taken on h5. They decide to take on d5, which is a lot tastier pawn. And after knight e4, queen c6. And on bishop d3, knight f4. And we finally arrived to the position, the stage, where further analysis will not do anything for us, because it's obvious black was completely dominating in the opening, and white's bishop g5 and h4 maneuver was total disastrous, and that's what we're gonna tell the lower rated player. Don't try to improvise in a very well-known position, and don't try to improvise before you develop every piece of yours. That's what surprisingly, Morozevich, world-class player, he violated this rule. What did he expect? He could have gotten away against someone weaker. You do it against Ivanchuk, you're going to get punished. You're going to get punished severely, and that's exactly what happened in this game. There is another game played by very young, very talented international master. I think he's like 11 or 12 years old, Ilya Nizhnik, with a FIDE rating of 25-30 versus, again, another grandmaster of rating 26-40. Ilya Nizhnik was white. This is also a very instructive game. c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6. Bishop e2, castle, knight f3, e5, castle, very well known position, and e takes d, knight takes d4, rook e8, f3, c6. This is the move with the idea of d5, where white is hoping to get, black is hoping to get to open position and get very active piece play. Knight c2, preventing black from playing d5. And after knight c2, knight a6, bishop e3. But bishop e3 allows d5. And this we're going to see as why I picked this game as a very, very instructive game. This is a pawn sacrifice, and correct pawn sacrifice. C takes d, c takes d, e takes d, and knight b4. That's the idea of this sacrifice. Black is attacking knight on c2, and rook on e3 will be, bishop on e3 will be loose, and also black is threatening knight takes d5, so white's choice is forced. Knight takes b4, rook takes e3, knight c2. Now let's look at this position. Black is correctly evaluated this position as it's favorable for them. It's correct evaluation. They have dark square bishop, which is very powerful, uncontested on big diagonal. White has pawn on f3 weakness, and pawn on d5 is not very strong. Black has very good piece play. And after knight c2, here rook e8, and on king h1, black made a move that is not good, queen a5. Now this is a premature commitment of putting queen on a5. Now let's see what would have happened, how this pawn sacrifice would have paid off in case black played correctly. Correct move was bishop d7 to bring rook on c8 quickly. Well, I'm saying bishop d7 and not bishop f5 because we don't want to allow some tempo of knight d4. So bishop d7, and after queen d2, rook c8. You see, now we have every one of black's pieces aimed correctly. White still has to make a sense of this knight on c2, knight on c3, and they have to put their pieces together. Suppose rook a d1, then knight h5. Now all of a sudden you have queen h4 threat, and this is a powerful threat. Nobody wants to go g3 and allow bishop h3 here. So after knight h5, f4, and that's where, now this is interesting approach. This is, well, I don't blame black for not playing like this, because this is only kind of happen in analysis. It's very difficult to perform this in a game. Bishop takes c3, pawn takes c3, knight f6. Now this would have been in g3, but white played f4. We still do the same thing. Bishop takes c3, bc, and now knight f6. Now we're threatening knight takes d5, and we're threatening knight e4. Actually, in a previous example here, on g3, we should maybe go bishop takes c3, maybe bishop h3, and black has tremendous position. Only on f4, we should take on c3, we should go knight f6, attempting knight e4 or knight takes d5. Significant difficulties for white. Queen c7. Now pawn on c3 is hanging. After this, knight on c2 will be loose. And if knight d4, queen takes c3. I think the position is simply much better for black. d5 pawn is not going anywhere. Black has very active minor pieces, and on d6 we can go b5. And we have very active play for black. Pawn on d6, I think it's much closer to being weak than to be as strong. So bishop d7 wasn't played. And you see how quickly black's position went downhill. After queen a5, white played bishop c4, and now bishop d7. But what is queen doing on a5? We don't know. In some cases, we would have had a threat queen h4 if black played knight h5. Now after bishop d7, queen d2, and now h5. Also now black completely losing thread, so they want to play king h7 and bishop h6 maybe, and after h5, queen f2, a6, rook a d1, rook a c8, bishop b3, queen c5, queen g3. And after rook c to d8, knight d4. Now white is completely regrouped. They have extra pawn on d5 and all their pieces placed beautifully. Their potential threat of d6 with the queen takes g6 idea, because the f7 pawn will be hanging. And after knight d4, there is a king h7, d6, attacking f7 pawn, and black is totally lost now. Rook f to e1. Now taking on d6 is not possible. Pawn is protected, and white's pieces, not black's pieces, white's pieces completely dominating here. And after bishop c8, knight to c2, and on b5, rook e5. Well, that's where I would like to stop, because white has extra pawn, overwhelming position, and totally winning game. So this is absolute disaster. And again, going back to the critical point, what black needs to do here, it's very simple actually. It's not that difficult to find. Black needs to get all their pieces in the game quickly, not starting with the queen. Queen is a very quick piece. It can be from the edge of the board in the middle in one move. So we don't want to clear whether we want the queen on queen side or on the king side. So we go bishop d7, putting rook on c8. Bishop d7, and on queen d2, which is only move that makes sense, then we go rook c8. And when white plays rook d1, those are the moves white has to make. And now we go knight h5. You see, the queen belongs not on a5, but right now it wants to go to h4. And after f4, absolutely beautiful maneuver, and knight f6. That's where we take advantage of our powerful rook on c8, where we keep attacking the c3 pawn. c4 is not good here because of knight e4, and white is going to encounter all sorts of problems. There is bishop f5, there is queen h4, and it's absolutely great position for black. By missing that, black went and all their pieces started acting awkwardly, and they lost the game. Very instructive. And as you see, we saw so far 3 games. They are all on the highest levels, and they all make typical mistakes. When you sacrifice pawn, your counterplay has to be focused and very quick. Whatever you have going for you, you have to perform real quick before your opponent's pieces consolidate. Here is the game I picked out of hundreds maybe. This game is typical. There were a lot of mistakes in this game, played by 2. I think they are both grandmasters, Drozdowski and Hamduchi, but 2 very strong players. And this game is full of mistakes, but they are very typical middle game practical mistakes. And those are very good to learn from. Oh, d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, knight f3, castle, bishop f4, d6, h3. Now, this system was developed by me, and I played countless games with this system for white very successfully, because I have developed it a lot deeper than normally it's known in theory. h3 is absolutely unnecessary move at this stage. The correct continuation is e3. h3 was played with the idea to preserve the bishop. Well, and you always should give your opponent a chance to make a mistake, which is knight h5 in this case. It's a mistake because after bishop g5, h6, and bishop h4, g5 is a bad continuation because of knight d2, attacking the knight on h5, which has to move, since taking bishop will be devastating for black. And if knight moves back, now black played g5 and h6, severely weakening their king and without getting dark square bishop. That's why by far more accurate move is e3 in this position. However, h3 was played, and after h3, b6, e3, bishop b7, and here is the move that I don't quite understand, and there is no way I can approve of this move, queen c2. According to my analysis, bishop e2 gives white slight advantage. So, but let's go queen c2. Well, it's hard to catch the idea of this move. After bishop c2, knight d7 was played. Now bishop e2, a6. Why couldn't bishop e2 be played without queen c2? After a6, well, in this position, instead of a6, good continuation would have been e5. You see, and that's why queen c2 is not a good move, because what white should have done, instead of, in this position, instead of queen c2, they could have castled, and now e5 move wouldn't have been possible, although it was missed in the game as well. Black missed move e5, and if white takes de, knight takes e5. The reason why I say e5 move was not possible if white has castled and their queen was on d1, because g2 pawn would have been protected. And now, after knight takes e5, the bishop takes e5, black has a better position. So this was missed. This is number one opportunity that was missed by black, and instead they make move that has very questionable value. They went a6. White castled. They went e6. Now they want to go for queen e7 and e5. Again, a6 and h3. h3 was played in a wrong time because knight h5 was not threatening. And a6 is, I think it's the kind of move that is a wrong time for this move at any point in this opening. So this is the types of mistakes that I tell much weaker player. So you gotta stay away from moves like h3, a3, a6, h6 before you conclude your development. And nevertheless, here we see highly qualified players make those moves. And this is puzzling to me very much. So b4 was played by white, queen e7, rook fd1, e5, bishop h2, e takes d, and knight takes d4. This is correct move because if white takes with e pawn, black has very good position after knight e4. If knight d5, then bishop takes d5, c takes d, and f5. Black has very strong position. Good knight on e4, Terrible weakness on d5, and bishop on h2 is bad. Taking on c7 is going to make things worse now, because after rook fc8 there will be knight c3 move, and the rook hangs and bishop hangs. So this is why white correctly chose to take with the knight. That's a correct move. But now black plays knight e5. This is not a good move, and they get bad position after. The correct would have been a5. Although it's correct move, it still proves that a6 was a bad idea, total waste of time. a5 was correct, and after a3, rook fe8 to keep maximum pressure and preventing white for making active moves. And after a3, rook fe8, and if knight d5, then bishop takes d5. This is totally equal position after cd, ab, ab, rook takes a1, rook takes a1. Well, this is balanced position, knight takes d5, and after knight c6, queen g5. White has very powerful knight on c6. Black has an extra pawn, and their position is not in danger. That would have been the right way to play for black. However, they chose knight e5. And this is a weak move because white continues the pressure, rook c1. They are seriously intending knight d5. It's definitely coming now. Rook a d8 and knight d5. Knight takes d5, c takes d. And now white has very strong pressure on c file. Knight c6 may be coming. However, black took on d5, and after queen takes c7, queen g5. Now, black has some activity on the king side, but their pawn structure on the queen side and in the center completely ruined. I would say bishop f1 was played. I would say position is very bad for black here. b5, and now f4, queen h6. Taking the knight is necessary, that's why f4 was played, and black has some very questionable compensation for it. Fe was necessary, I did say that. However, now if we go here, black has questionable compensation, which is far from being enough for sacrificed piece. But now, instead of taking the knight, knight takes b5 would have been very strong, attacking the d5 bishop. And there is no activity. Black has only two pieces playing in the game. This is not right. Well, however, the continuation chosen by white is not bad either. Take, king h1, and bishop takes e5. Now, rook c3, there was some threat, hidden threat, queen takes h3. Here is a threat. So rook c3. This is actually quite interesting. White played, and you have to remember to what I say now, because white plays rook c3, protecting the h3 pawn. Correct move was to protect that pawn different way. Knight c6. This is a very, very accurate way of protecting your h3 pawn. This is actually a winning move. Now queen takes h3 is out of question because knight takes e5, eliminating threat, and then rook takes d5, after which queen will be hanging. This wasn't played. Well, White plays rook c3, protecting on h3, and this queen f2 was played. Now white plays rook c2, and after queen h4, knight c6 is easy win here in this position. Now white forgets about h3 pawn. They play knight f5, queen takes h3, and white resigned in a couple of moves. King g1, and bishop takes h2. Now white loses everything. King f2, queen takes f5, and on king e1, simply rook c8. White resigned here. Oh, they should resign. They're completely busted. So what I want to tell you here is this. Of course, they see queen takes h3 in one position, and they don't see it two moves later. Why? The reason, we don't know the reason, because there might have been severe time pressure or temporary blindness, whatever the reason was. After knight c6, white is absolutely winning. So what can we tell from analyzing these games? That you see the multiple errors. Some of them are tactical errors, two-move combination errors. And some errors were in the opening, such as queen c2 on move 8 by white. However, white was complete, we should say complete, absolute winner in the opening, although they played it wrong as the outcome of the opening. Black, on the other hand, made a couple of real bad moves in the early stage of the game. The move a6 they played on move 9 was absolutely unnecessary, and then they missed e5 move. Those were the critical points of this game, very typical, and if you play this opening for either side, you should remember them. This is very instructive game. That's the way I see it. Here's a game between two very strong grandmasters, rated 2625 and 2570 FIDE rating. Those are very high ratings, and it was played in European Champion. Names are Bartholomew Masieja and Nicolas Sedlak. They're both grandmasters, well known in Europe. And here is the game. Game was played very accurately and well by white. c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7. And you will see series of very typical and very understandable mistakes. It's good to learn on the games that you analyze rather than on your own, because on your own games, when you play, in order to make a mistake, you probably will have to lose the game, and here you can learn for free. So after d4, castling, h3 variation, e5, and after e5, d5, a5. Well, normal move is knight a6, played by Kasparov and played many games. I had it a couple of times when I was white. But a5 is another possibility. Bishop g5, knight a6, knight d2, queen e8, preparing to remove the knight and go f5, and after queen e8, bishop e2, knight to d7. Now white goes g4, expecting black to go f5, and after g4, f6 was played first. Bishop e3, and knight d to c5. Of course, black is intending to go f5, very, very next move. Knight b3, and they played knight a4. This is an interesting decision. They want to exchange their knight for opponent's knight on c3, because that's the knight that has some influence in the center, and also they are intending to put their knight on c5 after that. After knight a4, knight takes a4, and queen takes a4 was played, and white plays rook g1. White is really preparing for black's f5. They want to open the g file. Black goes bishop d7. Now white plays h4. Rook f to b8. And this is a mistake number one. If you go rook f to b8 and you intending to go b5 and get strong counterplay on the queen side, then you have to do that. There is nothing worse than having one plan and then changing it and get to second plan. This is having bad plan is better than having no plan. But changing plans every move is really a bad idea. So after rook f to b8, knight c1 was played by white. Now white wants to exchange the queens, and maintaining the space advantage. I think exchanging queens would have been okay for black, and going b5, trying to create some counterplay, either b5 or maybe even c6. And before white's pieces get mobilized, black is going to get very good position. They're going to take cd. They may have to forget about f5, but just to take a look at this position. And now we're going to go bishop f8, followed by bishop e7 and bishop d8. And they have all pieces well placed. Now, this wasn't done. After knight c1, queen b4, check, queen d2, and now knight c5. Black is still okay, but they have to remember to exchange queens quickly. Knight c5, f3. When I said rook b8 is a bad move, I didn't mean that the move was bad. What I meant by that to change the plan after that was bad idea. Rook fb8 is not a bad move, but now after f3, king h8 all of a sudden was played. This is real bad. Now this is clear indication that black is intending to go f5. And after knight d3, queen takes d2, king takes d2. Now they go b6. Now, so they abandoning completely the counterplay on the queen side. That's why their position goes bad, goes absolutely sour. GH, GH, f5, ef, bishop takes f5, and knight f2. This is already bad position for black. White has central square on e4, and you will see they will soon get possession of it. They have very strong positional, possibly positional threat. So what they want to do after h6, they could have done that. Bishop takes c5, but they didn't want to do it right away because after b takes c5, b2 pawn is hanging. But the idea was to go, if b2 pawn wasn't hanging, exchange light square bishops and get domination on e4 with their knight. What happened in the game after h6? Rook g3, which is very good idea. White played very well this game. a4, rook g1, and there goes rook g8. Now, black completely missed the plane, so they get no counterplay on queenside, and their position is strategically lost. Correct continuation would have been bishop d1. Now, here is why I picked this game. What we have to do here, we have to go and establish domination on e4 square. Light square bishops must be exchanged. This is one way of doing this, and it's a very, very good way of doing it. And the other way would have been maybe even better. Bishop d1 followed by bishop c2 and exchanging light square bishops. This is the way this game should be played. Very focused positionally. You cannot win this game with white by tactical means. However, white completely misplayed by going knight to g4. Now, what is wrong with the knight g4 move? I already said that bishop d1 would have given them a huge advantage, and bishop c2, followed by rook g6 after exchanging bishops, light square bishops. Black's position is absolutely collapsing after this. What they did instead, they went knight g4. Now, this is like abandoning your e4 square. You're attacking h6 pawn. What do you expect your opponent to make a blunder? And black does. They go king h7, and after bishop takes c5, b takes c, knight e3, bishop d7, bishop d3 check, king h8, bishop f5. Black's position is absolutely hopeless, and they lost quickly. Now, let's go back. Why do I call this move, king h7, a terrible mistake? Pawn on h6 hanging, and here is the missed opportunity. Black could have gotten here at least an equal position, maybe even hoping for more. And sometimes you miss the good positional game, very consistent and very energetic, and then you miss some opportunity that was missed, by the way, by both players, and including the commentator for this game. Person who commented the game, he missed it too. However, after a3, they all missed the move. After a3, black is at least equal, maybe even better. Now, b8 cannot be considered seriously because rook takes a3 and black gets decisive penetration on the queen side. So b3 or b4 must be played. b4, we should look only at b4 because black has to play knight b3 check. And if b3 was played, they would have done the same thing by taking the pawn. So the only move to be considered is b4. And now, knight b3 check. And knight cannot be taken. Well, if ab, then a2. All of a sudden, this pawn is very powerful. Rook a1. Now e4, here is bishop opening, and rook g1, ef, and after bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, we simply play bishop takes g4, bishop takes g4, bishop takes a1, and white can resign in this position. So this wouldn't have been possible. So the knight on b3 is immune. So if we play a3 and white is forced to play b4 and we go knight b3 check, this is pretty forced. and taken is not possible, then the only other move is king c3. And here is how black gets great position. Now, knight d4, creating serious commotion in white's camp. So, attacking the e2 bishop, and after bishop d1, which is the only sensible square to retreat, now we go bishop b1. All of a sudden, we getting the a2 pawn. And after knight takes h6, bishop takes h6, in general exchange of rooks. And bishop takes h6 here. So what we have after bishop takes a2, it's obviously we cannot even talk about white having an advantage. A3 pawn is extremely powerful, and white has to fight for a draw. So no matter what happens, black is doing very, very well here. However, this all was actually on bishop c1. Now, if they are attacking a3 pawn, we can go b5. And you see the c4 pawn is hanging, whether white pushes or takes. We take on d5, and black is doing just fine. And there is also knight takes b5 going to be there. So this was missed by both players. Here is the position that is strategically winning for white, and bishop d1 would have sealed the fate of this game. But knight g4 allowed extremely powerful a3 that would have led to equal or maybe even better game for black. This was missed, and after king h7 that was played in a game I already showed, bishop takes c5, b takes c, knight e3, bishop d7, bishop d3 check, and bishop f5. Black's position is absolutely hopeless because the bishops have to be exchanged, and if bishop e8 there is bishop e6, and white's game went completely downhill and they lost very shortly. Very instructive game, and frequently we see grandmasters play good positional game, and then there is a point when they missed some thread, they missed some critical blow from one side or the other, and game can completely change the course of development and can get a very unlikely result. So therefore we analyzed this game and we pointed on some tactical errors and positional errors as well. Positional errors for the third time I want to point here. Bishop d1 is the move, followed by bishop c2, and not knight g4. After bishop c2, light square bishops are exchanged, and black is in bad shape. In the conclusion of this DVD, I want to bring a couple of my own games that I played on ICC with the systems that I very well developed in one of the games, even the system that I invented and brought into life. So let's see these games. D4. That was played against very strong players. I don't know their names, but this was GM with white. G6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6, knight f3, castling, bishop e2, knight bd7, white castles, e5, and rook e1. Rook e1 is the most popular move in this position, and the other option is d5. Well, on d5, it's interesting that black has comfortable position after knight c5 attacking the e4 pawn, and if queen c2 then a5. Of course, there's a lot more to it, and if knight d2, then very interesting and strong move, bishop h6. So, but this is something for you to make a note of, but rook e1 is the most popular move and considered to be the best move. And now move that hardly ever played, h6. I made some developments in this opening, in this variation, and you will see it now. What is the point of h6 move? So white continues the normal plan, bishop f1 and knight to h7. Now, why do I play knight h7? Do I want to go f5? No. Black has no intention of going f5 unless white plays d5. f5 should be played only in a closed pawn center. However, after knight h7, here's the idea. Bishop e3, knight g5. Indirectly, we are putting pressure on d4 pawn. Now, black is intending to take on f3 and take on d4. And after knight g5, knight takes g5 was played, h takes g, and now d takes e was played. Knight takes e5 and queen d2. Well, after g4, in my opinion, black has very, very strong position. They have very powerful pawn on g4 that stops white from going f4, and also very well placed knight on e5. If white played, they cannot play immediate queen d2. They played knight takes g5, and if they play queen d2 now, black does almost the same. We get almost the same kind of position. So what white did here is they played d takes e, knight takes e5, queen d2, and g4. Now let's see how game developed here. Rook a to d1, bishop e6, attacking c4 pawn, and white decided to go c5. c5 is a sensible move, and here after c5 I took on c5, queen c1. White didn't want to exchange queens, and they want to take on c5 the next move. After queen c1, queen c8, and not queen e7. Queen e7 is a bad idea, protecting the pawn, because there will be knight d5 move, and on bishop takes d5, bishop takes c5. So queen c8 is correct move, bishop takes c5, and rook e8. Black is doing very well here. There is no play for white on the king side, dominating knight on e5, and black can easily develop the rest of their queenside pieces by going c6 and queen c7. There, it's not clear what white gets in this position, and here white chose to play b3. Obvious attempt was knight d5, then bishop takes d5, ed, and queen f5. Black's activity fully compensates white's two bishops. Rook a to d8 is coming, dominating knight, well-positioned queen. This is good position for black. b3 was played, then c6, bishop d4, queen c7. As I said, pieces slowly coming out. Queen b2 and rook a to d8. Now white went king h1, and the idea of king h1 move to stay away from possibility of knight f3 check and taking bishop on d4. Now rook takes d4 anyway, and after rook takes d4, knight f3. Now we are attacking the rook on d4, and also you see there is a threat of queen takes h2 mate. So g takes f, bishop takes d4, rook d1, queen e5. In this position, black has very big advantage. Very big advantage because it's hard to find anything, any play for white. c3 knight is hanging, king is destroyed, king's position is destroyed, two bishops for black, and control on dark squares. This is too much to overcome. Rook d3, g takes f, rook takes f3, king g7. Now you see, on top of everything, rook is coming to h8, and white is lost. After king g7, queen d2 again was played, rook h8, and after h3, very strong move, bishop b6, intending bishop c7, and white is totally lost. Bishop c7 was played, rook g3, and now b5, intending b4. And after b4, queen f6, attacking rook, and on rook d3, bishop c4. This is complete domination by black. You know, I'm not saying, of course, white didn't play 100% accurately this game, but this is very typical how it may develop. And of course, it was semi-blitz game. It wasn't real semi-blitz game, but semi-blitz game played by grandmaster is not much less than tournament game played by 18 or 2000 player. And this is what was the outcome of this game. Here is another game played on internet also against very strong player by me. So this game is against Zemish system. Knight f6, c4, j6. Well, Zemish system or Zemish attack, I always had a problem with exact names of the openings in English because in different countries they call the same openings some different names. So, after bishop g7, f3, castle, bishop e3, c5. This is very famous pawn sacrifice. I have to tell you, it was first ever this pawn sacrifice was invented and played by me against Lev Polugaevsky, very famous grandmaster in Russia, in the very early 70s, maybe late 60s. That's how long ago it was. DC, DC, and queen takes d8. Right now, for some reason, black stopped playing this, and this game, I don't know, I have difficulties telling you how many times this pawn sacrifice was played. Maybe thousands on any level, on the highest level. And it had various results, was very interesting opening. My opponent in this position played bishop takes c5, knight c6, knight d5, and here I decided to go to the continuation because it was a semi-blitz game that probably gives white an advantage. However, it's very, very interesting. Knight takes d5, cd, b6. This is all opening still, theory. Bishop a3, knight d4, threatening knight c2, castle long. Here, Black is down a pawn, but they decide to open position. And after e6, this is all theoretical position. Now, let me tell you this. This position is very, very important for evaluating whole variation. And white made, it's interesting that, I don't know if it was deliberate or out of ignorance, but white did play d takes e. Maybe they thought that black doesn't get enough compensation. But let me tell you what was played before. Number of games played with knight e2, knight b5, and bishop e7. And some of them were my games. In this position, the only move that gives white an advantage is bishop g5, and not bishop h4. This makes a huge difference, because then white has bishop h6 check and bishop b7, and you see that rook on d1 is not defended. Bishop g5 would have done it, but it's still playable position for black after bishop g5. In one of my games, one American grandmaster, Max Lugi, played against me d6, and game ended very quickly, and I won this game. It was very interesting development. f4, bishop takes d6, bishop f6, and here bishop b7 and e5. e5 was played by white. White's position is already very difficult. e5 was played by white. This I'm quoting the game that was played number of years ago, but then we're going to come back to the game that was played about a month ago. So e5, and here white is expected black to go rook c7 check and move the bishop when they get a chance to develop the rest of their pieces. But there was rook c8, very, very powerful blow in white's position. King b1, and now knight a3 check. B takes a, and now bishop takes e5. Rook is hanging, and all of a sudden we see that rook takes d7 will result in a mate to white's king, and therefore white's continuation was forced, and black won the game very quickly. I won bishop e4, rook takes, knight c3, rook takes c3. White simply got mated. And this game was played many years ago. Well, now let's go back to the game that was played just about a month ago. And my opponent went knowingly for this, and he made decision of playing d takes e. This position, his assumption and his evaluation, his analysis were wrong, because after bishop takes e6, black is practically winning. King b1, and this is the decisive move that was obviously missed by white. This is kind of part of the theory that is not known. Not known because everybody does his own analysis. When it says that white has a good position or black has good position, anytime in the opening, I go a little farther for two different reasons. At that time, I was doing it because I was playing active chess on regular basis, and now I'm doing it because I love to do the research. After knight b3, however, bishop d3 was played. Now, what would happen if rook takes d8? Then rook takes d8, and you see rook d1 is coming and taking the f1 bishop. And on bishop e2, this is absolutely devastating. Either knight d4 or knight d2 check. Black has tremendous compensation. What was played here, bishop d3, after knight b3, bishop d3. And obviously this cannot save white. Bishop c4, bishop takes c4. There is nothing else. On bishop c2, white can go knight d2 check, and on king c1, bishop h6. That would be devastating. And if king a1, then simply rook c8. That would be very strong. Or maybe in this position, maybe even rook takes d1, followed by knight d4 or knight d2 check. Well, anyway, you can do your own research. This is simply not good and not acceptable continuation for white. Bishop takes c4, rook takes d1, king c2, rook c1, check. White thought they are doing okay because they're getting second piece, but after rook c1, king takes b3, all of a sudden their king position is absolutely hopeless. a5 with a threat of a4 and bishop f8, and after a5 there is no defense. Bishop d6, a4, king b4, bishop takes b2. In this position, black can play slowly by taking pawn, increasing the pressure. White has two bishops, but they have severely pinned knight on g1, which makes their mobility close to zero, and that's why their position is absolutely lost. h4 was played, bishop c3 check, king b5, rook b1 check simply wins white's bishop. And after rook b1 check, king c6, rook c8, white simply resigned. Bishop is hanging, and on king d5 there will be rook d1, winning the bishop, and actually in this case it's checkmating. So white would have to go king d7, and black has huge material and positional advantage. White resigned. This was actually interesting game, and again, playing this variation for black, c5 variation of the Zaimish, you have to do big research on your own, and you have to know position real well, not in order to get very good position, in order it to be playable for you at all. So this is just a thought. I give you some food for thinking, material for thinking and developing this system. And once you develop, you can get reasonably good positions, as good positions as you can get in any King's Indian opening. So I hope you learned something from these examples, and I look forward to talking to you about King's Indian in some near future and presenting you new games. The games that we saw today, they were all played by some very strong players within last year or year and a half. So games were completely new and mistakes were new. So you cannot tell it was weak players or very old games. No, there were good players, new games, and some of them were very, very instructive. I thank you very much, and I'll see you very soon.